Hey, you guys. Um, so this is what world history looks like now. This feels really weird. I'm actually sitting on my in my apartment, looking out my window, and gonna try to talk about world history. I'm gonna try to do my best doing this with you. This is like you see this right now and like that, but this is kind of funny. This is actually what it looks like right now. Sitting here with all this stuff around, trying to figure out how to teach you. So here is our essential question, and I have a feeling that the I can't actually see my the box right now that you guys can see, and I have a feeling it's blocking some of this. So I'm gonna get out of this and then just raise it up a little bit so the webcam box doesn't block that. So this is our essential question for the week. This would be kind of like the what am I learning today that you would write down in your notebook. But this one is just for the whole entire week. So normally what I would do is I would break this up into like a Tuesday, what am I learning? A Wednesday short period, what am I learning? And then a Friday, what am I learning? But I totally understand that there's a lot of things going on at home for some of you, and most of you are going to be working on this stuff at different times. And so, what I'm going to try to do, like I said in the Google Classroom message, is try to put something together that I can post it on Tuesday, and just understand that you're going to be working on it when you can throughout the week. So, what I would do is I'm going to teach you this right now. This should be in your notes. If you want to pause it and go back and then create some notes, this would be kind of like your sketch notes, but you're going to be doing these in your on your own in your notebook. So here we go. So this is going to go along with body paragraph 1. And what we're going to be looking at is explaining these uh, Nuremberg laws and something called Kristallnacht, or Night of the Broken Glass. And these are actually, this will be for your first week learning this way. This is good because I already gave you these documents. And so it should be a little bit easier because you actually are a little bit ahead. You've already done some of this work. So to start and then just kind of review a little bit. So remember that no one woke up one day, including Hitler, and decided that, killing 11 million people was going to be a good idea. That would have been too crazy. And so the step-by-step process starts with just words, and we kind of attack that top part of meaning and esteem and recognition. And the way that looks like is things like anti-Semitism. Remember, anti-Semitism before we left was racism specifically towards Jewish people, and scapegoating Jewish folks and stereotypes and anti-Semitic propaganda and things like that. A lot of it had to do with the economy and Germany pulling out of the war. Um, Now I'm getting text messages while I'm teaching. This is different, huh? Instead of you getting text messages that are distracting you when you're learning, I'm getting text messages that are from my other kids that while I'm trying to teach you. And a lot of this stuff was blamed on some fake, it was totally fake, it was made up conspiracy that somehow Jewish folks that were in the government were sabotaging Germany and trying to undermine Germany, and were not really true Germans, and wanted to see Germany fail. And so in response to this, to kind of punish them for this conspiracy that some folks believed, there were these boycotts that were organized. And these boycotts, remember, boycott means that we're going to stop shopping at your business, try to put you out of business. Actually, these boycotts were organized. And so what this did was it put words out into the public. So remember that process of normalization. Normalization means it still means that it's wrong, and it still means that that you might not agree with it, but when it becomes normalized, it means that you're just no longer like totally shocked by it either. So that would be like going back to this one. At first, that might be really shocking, and people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening." But after a while, they're like, "This is wrong," but yeah, it's happening. Like that shock wears off. And when that shock wears off, it allows that next step to happen. And that's where we see these folks actually like take these ideas and these words and then make them in real life, and then go out and protest with them. And what we saw in your intro paragraph, was, that was all not unlike, what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. In fact, one of the people that were speaking, they even said, they're like, we're taking stuff that's off the internet. Usually they're just like talking in Reddit and stuff, in memes. And he even like flat out said, he's like, we're taking the stuff that we usually say on the internet and we're showing that we're in real life. So it was like that same exact process of taking stuff that is just words that are horrible and shocking, but once they're no longer shocking, it makes folks feel a little bit more comfortable to take that stuff out into real life. And that's exactly what we saw, with that Vice documentary that we were watching. And so when that happens, what's going on is like no one's losing their home, no one's going into a concentration camp or gas chamber, or even getting arrested. You're just Oops, I went too fast. You're just starting to attack that top stuff, that meaning, that high potential. You haven't even really taken it away yet. You're just chipping away at it. So then let's start off with like body paragraph 1 stuff. What was going on was, the Nazi Party and Hitler, it wasn't just Hitler, but the Nazi Party, they started having these, little rallies, barbecues, gatherings, and they would happen every year. And it was sort of this like yearly gathering of their, political party. It was called something different. It was called like the German Labor Party, but to make it easier on you, this whole entire time, I'm just going to call it the Nazi Party because, that's just going to make it more simple for you to understand. But they would meet in these little places, and they would basically like give speeches and clap and stuff like that. And it really wasn't a big deal. People were mostly just ignoring it, for the first few years. And they started to get a little bit bigger. And it was like, you can kind of think of it as almost like a big yearly barbecue, and everyone would come out and they would, meet each other and basically like have this like racist barbecue together, with each other. And you could meet, party officials, and the top folks, and see a picture of that going on. And then 1935, it changed. It got big. And so this happened like each year, it almost kind of grew. And so what turned in from like one small rally turned into a very, 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 very large organized event. And by this point, 1935 was when, Hitler was no longer just a party leader. He was actually like, he had some influence in government. He had been able to rise to a certain level of power, and took over that was able to implement laws and so forth. And at this rally, here's another picture of it that just shows how huge this was. At this rally, it's called the Nuremberg Rally in 1935. At this rally, there was a series of laws that were, announced. And these laws, they probably weren't called this at the very beginning. We started calling them this later just because they were announced at the Nuremberg Rally. They became known as the Nuremberg Laws. And so he announces these things. And, one of the main laws is, takes away citizenship, from German Jews, and it's really important. Like, I'm going to keep calling them German Jews, and what we don't want to get in the habit of saying is like, Germans and Jews, because if you were Jewish and you lived in Germany and you were born in Germany and your parents were born in Germany and your great grandparents were born in Germany, you speak German, you eat German food, you practice German culture, I would call you a German. And so, I'm going to keep using that same language, that these were Germans too. They were just Germans who were also Jewish. But this law said that they weren't German citizens anymore. And a lot of that had to do with that part of that conspiracy theory that was like going all the way back to, um, um, this thing that somehow these Jews were, anti-German, and they were working to undermine Germany and see it fall apart. And there were some other laws too that you're going to actually read about, and you should have already read about in the New York Times article. So what happened is he announced all of these laws, and then they were put into place. And then the very next day, this reporter from the New York Times uh, wrote about them. And so this wasn't a thing that like, oh my gosh, people around the world and people in the United States didn't know it was happening. I mean, people were reading this stuff in the newspaper the very next day, so it was definitely not a secret. Um, and the New York Times reporter, wrote about what those laws are, and you're going to use that as evidence to see what those laws are, and then to use that in body paragraph one. One of the laws that I think is funny, it's on number 4 of the New York Times article that's on the screen right now, is that Jewish Germans were forbidden to fly the German national flag. And guess what the German national flag was? Yeah, it was the Nazi flag. And so that one, I always write like, okay, like I don't know that many German Jews really wanted to fly that flag. I don't really know what that's all about. But yeah, okay. So one of the things that remember that we're doing is we're constantly going back and we're sort of comparing like lessons and things that we can learn from this to other parts of the history of our country, and some of the things that are going on right now in our country and just in around the world. And one of the things that I want to point out to you is that the exact same time that this was happening in Germany, these signs were up all over the United States. And I hope my my camera, I can't see the camera that you see right now. I hope it's not blocking the one. There's this one sign that says no dogs, um, no Negroes was a racist term, and then it says no Mexicans allowed. And one of the things that I don't think we're very good at, and you see it up at the top too, that sign that says we serve whites only, no Spanish or Mexicans. One of the things I don't think a lot of people realize is, these kinds of segregation laws, they're called the Jim Crow laws. They didn't just direct towards people of color, black folks. They were any people of color were the target of this kind of segregation, especially in places like Texas and even California. And these, everything was announced in Germany in 1935, and these signs had already been up for a far longer in the United States before 1935. And when people were reading about these laws happening in Germany in 1935, all of these signs were already there. And so this isn't like just a German thing. Like at that time, the United States was doing the exact same thing. Inside of the article that you're getting and released um, released from the Nazi Party at that time was this document. Now, on your document that I gave you on the back side of that, there's a translated version, so you can actually see what all this means. But this is what it actually looked like, the one that you have up on the screen right now. And what it did is it was a document that showed different levels, different statuses of being Jewish. And it was how someone would figure out if a law applied to them or not. And it had a lot to do with, if you were, as you flip to your document, like you could be anything from what they call German ancestry to mixed second grade, mixed first grade, sorry, and then be considered Jew. And it had to do with, your grandparents and your parents and things like that. And if you were considered a Jew, then all these Nuremberg laws were going to apply to you. One thing that I want you to know about, and again, the stuff when we compare these topics of like the Nuremberg laws to our society or current society, or even like the history of this country, that can kind of go anywhere in your essay. That stuff can go in your conclusion. It can be brought up in your body paragraphs. It can be both. one thing I want you to know about is something in the United States at the time called the one drop rule. And the one drop rule said that if you had any relatives at all in your past that were considered to be people of color or black, you too were going to all be considered a person of color or black. And it didn't matter, even if even if you didn't stereotypically look like a person of color, it didn't matter. Your great 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 grandparent could be a person of color, and everybody since then could be automatically considered to be a person of color as well too. It didn't matter, and this was considered too extreme by Hitler and the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party and Hitler actually looked to the United States and said, wow, like that's too crazy. I don't think we can get away with that. And so they saw what was happening with the one drop rule in the United States and said, that's just too insane. Like we can't do that. And so they came up with this system instead. And so what I'm going to have you do is I want you to, I'm going to put, oh, oops, sorry, back up. So what we're going to look at is one more thing. So I want to kind of point out to you what's going on here with when you take someone's citizenship away and you do things like you take their jobs away based on who they are and their status. You do things where you even take their ability to marry who they want away, which is something else the Nuremberg laws did. What you're doing is you're actually finally taking away those top two levels. You're taking away their meaning, the meaning and that they have for their lives. You're taking away that outside esteem and recognition that people have, and you're making it so basically like the thing, the highest you can get is your relationships with other people, mostly within your family or small friend group. You're never going to get that stuff. That top two stuff is stuff you get from the outside world. And what these laws did by taking away your citizenship, and then by, if you're not a citizen, you can't have these jobs, so forth and so on. You've made it so the best your life can be has nothing to do with the outside world anymore. It just has to do with your relationships with other people. And something that I want to compare that to, and again, this can be something that you use in your conclusion, or it could be something you use in your paragraph, is I want to compare that to what happened with a group of people known as DACA or Dreamers. And these are people that came to the United States, crossed over. They were born somewhere else, and they crossed over in the United States when they were kids, when they were minors. And they were at one point given protection and said, you don't have necessarily the permanent citizen status, but you have all these protections and you have some of the privileges of what you would have if you were a citizen. And that included things like employment and jobs and just being able to live your life without fear of getting into trouble with immigration or getting picked up. And what happened soon after this current president was elected and put into office, was all of a sudden those protections were taken away. The current status right now is as soon as they were taken away, people sued the federal government. And right now it's kind of up in the air. It's up to the Supreme Court to decide if the current president has the full right and authority to take those away, or if the Supreme Court is going to say that these people can continue having these protections. And this is a quick video that kind of shows what it's like for those people. And so one of the things I want you kind of thinking about as you're watching this is, in what ways does taking away DACA protections relate to taking away these top two aspects of what it means to be human. What's similar and what's different.
I understand what it is to live scared. I'm an ex-drug addict, alcoholic. When I reached rock bottom, I was scared of my life. I was scared of my career. I was scared of everything. But this is a different situation. I messed me up. They didn't mess up anything. They're over here living in this country, doing right. They're gonna take that liberty and freedom away from them, and they're gonna take their family away from them. And they're trying to make them stop being Americans. ¿Cómo tú te llamas? Yo no sé. ¿De dónde llegaste? Me encanta cantarle a los latinos en Estados Unidos porque siento que es como que mi gente respaldándome. Este país me ha dado mucho y el mero hecho de que se llene una harina en Miami, en los Estados Unidos, para mí es una bendición. Artistas como nosotros tenemos que aprovechar las redes sociales que tenemos nosotros con todos los millones de seguidores para crear los movimientos.
We are the dreamers. Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome
here. I came to the United States at the age of 3 years old. Right now, I'm 29 years old, and I'm still under this limbo of being undocumented. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. There's 800,000 people under this program that was passed in the prior administration by President Obama. With DACA, dreamers across the country were able to have some type of legalization here in the United States.
As we speak tonight, we are removing gang members, drug dealers, and criminals that threaten our communities and prey on our very innocent citizens.
De deportación es como que me vas a sacar de mi hogar para ir a otro lugar que no pertenezco para nada. You can just talk to me and have a conversation with me and you'll see that I'm about as American as it gets. This country is based on opportunities. I just want a chance to be a good person. This was in Argentina. It might have been my birthday party. I really don't have any memory of this. If I lost DACA, it would mean you can't work because you get your license taken away. Like, how do I function now? You're ripping me away from my home, making me go back to a country where I really don't belong.
I've been part of this community since the first grade. This is the only country I've known. So the moment that this is taken away from us, their world's pretty much gonna crumble.
Music plays a huge role in my life. It's just a wild thought that somebody as big as Nicky Jam would take the time and come speak to us about why it's so important for DACA recipients to progress in their way to citizenship.
Un hogar es la familia. Entonces que te quiten el hogar es como un robo, ¿no?
Toda mi familia acá y son todos o ciudadanos o residentes, excepto mi hermano y yo, que somos DACA. Vamos a estar viviendo solo los dos en Argentina, no tiene sentido.
It's hard, and I know it's hard because my wife's Colombian. Until the other day, I could help to get my mother-in-law in the States so she could be with her daughter.
La familia es lo más importante.
When I heard the first things that came out of Trump's mouth, I said, oh my God, it sounds ugly.
Con esta administración, las deportaciones han sido mucho más rápidas y están separando familias que realmente la gente no tiene récord criminal ni nada.
If I have to go back to Venezuela, it's completely terrifying because just what happens next?
It's obviously a racist situation because when he comes out with this attitude, like, okay, I want to make America great again.
Mm-hmm.
So what's great for you? I think great is what we have. Like
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We made America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, great what? What do you mean great? Just white people? That's
exactly.
Great? Is that great? Saying
well, I think that's the fear that we all had. Like, as soon as he became president, like, for example, myself, like, I changed my name on my Facebook and I changed my name on my Instagram. Just so then, like, I can't be searched that easily. And it's just like, You shouldn't have to do that. Like,
in your own country.
Exactly. Like, it's scary that the president of the United States is stating these things.
Yeah, you feel bullied.
We felt like with DACA, we were able to come out of the shadows and be able to start contributing to society because we are Americans. And as soon as he rescinds DACA, it's like, oh man, like you take one step forward and two steps back.
Tiene su cosa rara cuando se trata del gobierno y todo eso, pero también cuando se pelea y cuando la masa de la gente se une,
La voz se escucha.
ellos escuchan. Cantarle a la gente y ver la reacción de la gente y cantar mis canciones y poder componer una canción. El día que me quiten la voz y me quiten ese derecho de cantarle a la gente, yo no sé qué voy a hacer porque es lo único que se hace. Los latinos son una de las personas más importantes en los Estados Unidos, ya que son gente trabajadora, gente luchadora, gente que traen mucho a la mesa en este país. Para mí se merecen esa oportunidad y 1000 oportunidades más.
No person should be kicked out of their home.
Yo creo que tengo todo el derecho en el mundo a estar acá.
Me estoy preparando, seguir peleando y seguir luchando por mi derecho.
So normally what I'd have you do is I'd have you turn and talk, but that's not going to really be possible. There is a turn and talk, digital turn and talk requirement that I posted for you that's on Flipgrid, and the link is on Classroom. So when you get to that, you'll have a chance to share thoughts there as well too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back over to this document. I know many of you, if not hopefully all of you, have already read it because it was assigned to you. If you haven't read it, this is going to be the time when you do that. If you have read it, it's been a few days or a week, and there's a lot that has happened since then. So go through it real quick again so it's fresh in your head. I'm going to also place this on Classroom because I know my camera box is blocking part of it. So this would be the point where you would hit pause for a moment and go through and read the document, and then come back to the video, and we'll keep going. So hit pause, go read, annotate, and then we'll pick back up. Okay. So second part of this body paragraph is something called Night of the Broken Glass, or it actually has a word called Kristallnacht, and it roughly translates to English in Night of the Broken Glass. And this happened in 1938, so a couple of years after. And so what I want you to be thinking about, which is kind of our essential question here, is, how did things like the Nuremberg laws make it a little bit more likely that violence could happen? So this is going to be a turning point. Kristallnacht is a turning point for your essay. It's a turning point in this story. And the reason it's such an important turning point is because this is when it's no longer words. Now people are actually going to get hurt. And violence is actually going to take place. And something that's incredibly important for you to understand is the Nuremberg laws did not make violence happen. What the Nuremberg laws did instead was it made it more likely that violence might happen. And I think that's a really important distinction because we're going to look at some other comparisons, with our world and what's going on in our country right now as well too. And one of the things I want to really stress and point out to you is just because we see similarities between Nuremberg laws and taking away DACA status, it doesn't mean that the next step is going to be this violence. And so what we want to just know is that the Nuremberg laws didn't actually create violence. They just created the environment where it made it a little easier for violence to take place. And so what happened here was this is an individual. He's a teenager. He was about 17 years old, and he committed a crime. He was a Jewish individual, Jewish teenager, and he committed a crime. His parents, or his father, was actually also Jewish, was arrested and deported. And this individual felt that was unfair, which it was. And this individual decided to use violence to retaliate against an injustice against him and his family. And what he did is he shot and killed a German diplomat, this individual. And what happened was the Nazi leadership used this particular crime as a reason and excuse to go nuts. This individual, he went into hiding. They couldn't find him, and so they decided they were going to go house to house looking for him. And when they went house to house looking for him, it wasn't just house to house searching for this individual. They rioted Jewish neighborhoods all over the place. And then really just, it became an excuse. It became an excuse to use violence against Jewish neighborhoods in this one particular crime that was committed against this individual. And here's a quick, and sorry, what do I want to say first before this one? This is so hard to teach like behind a laptop and not actually see you. You also have a document here that's from the New York Times about this event, about this night, that you actually should have already read. The individual that you see on your screen, his name is Joseph Goebbels. What he did is he actually really used this particular crime as a reason to say that the situation, the quote situation with Jewish folks, Jewish Germans, has gotten completely out of control. And he said some pretty gnarly things. And so this is a quick video of like how that night unfolded and how this event unfolded.
Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, was the wave of violent anti-Jewish pogroms on November 9th and 10th of 1938. It took place throughout Germany, annexed Austria, and in areas of Czechoslovakia recently occupied by German troops. Kristallnacht owes its name to the shards of shattered glass from the windows of synagogues, homes, and Jewish-owned businesses that lined German streets in the wake of the pogrom. On November 7, 1938, Ernst von Rath, a German embassy official stationed in Paris, was assassinated by Herschel Grimspan, a 17-year-old Polish Jew living illegally in Paris. Grimspan revengefully shot the diplomat after witnessing the expulsion of not only his parents, but thousands of Jews of Polish citizenship living in the German Reich. Von Rath died on November 9, 1938. The same day, at a meeting of Nazi Party leadership, Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels, a chief instigator of the Kristallnacht pogroms, suggested that world Jewry had conspired to commit the assassination and ordered that any demonstration, while not organized by the Nazi Party, shall not be hampered. Newspapers reported otherwise. After Goebbels' speech, violence erupted in various parts of the Reich. Paramilitary, or SA, and Hitler Youth units throughout Germany and its annexed territories destroyed Jewish-owned homes and businesses. Jewish artifacts were confiscated, and many young, healthy Jewish men were arrested and filled local jails. The rioters destroyed 267 synagogues throughout Germany, Austria, and the Sudetenland. Many synagogues burned throughout the night in full view of public and of local firefighters who had received orders to intervene only to prevent flames from spreading to nearby buildings. SA and Hitler Youth members shattered shop windows of an estimated 7,500 Jewish-owned commercial establishments and looted their wares. Jewish cemeteries became a particular object of desecration in many regions. Mobs of SA men roamed the streets, attacking Jews in their houses and forcing Jews they encountered to perform acts of public humiliation. Kristallnacht claimed the lives of at least 91 Jews. As the pogrom spread, units of the SS and Gestapo, the secret state police, arrested up to 30,000 Jewish males and transferred most of them from local prisons to Dachau and Buchenwald, as well as other concentration camps. In the immediate aftermath of the pogrom, measures were introduced to eliminate Jews and perceived Jewish influence from the German economic sphere. The German government announced that the Jews were to blame for the pogrom, imposing a fine of $400 million on the German Jewish community. German education officials expelled Jewish children still attending German schools. The German government announced laws that enforced Aryanization policy, the transfer of Jewish-owned enterprises and property to the Aryan ownership. The events of Kristallnacht represented one of the most important turning points in Nazi anti-Semitic policy.
So one of the reasons this was such a turning point was because of the violence that actually took place. And one of the things that this individual did was, really just kind of use this event to rile people up and basically kind of just say, like, this crime is out of control. I mean, this one particular crime, he used that to say, because this one particular crime happen, here's proof that this is just out of control and we have to do something about it. And he kind of just went like this after that and let chaos happen, let violence happen. And these mobs started going in, these Nazi mobs started going into these neighborhoods and just rioted. One of the words that you heard at least once was called pogrom. And when you hear that word pogrom, what it really was basically a riot in a Jewish neighborhood. And the order was actually sent out. One of the documents you're reading is an order from a high-level official. The order was actually sent out to local police departments that they should be protecting to make sure that, quote, German property was not just destroyed or affected. And so what they meant by German property was basically non-Jewish German, because of course Jews were German too. Here's some images from left over from that night. So this turns into destroying property, destroying lives, arresting people, some folks physically beating folks, and of course some people actually lost their life. So this is that first big turning point where people actually lose their life. Not on the same scale as like a gas chamber concentration camp, but we have definitely crossed a line here. And at first, of course, this would be shocking, right? Like, this is a really big, giant, horrible event. But because of each step, normalizing each different step, including like the normalization of laws, these laws, the Nuremberg laws that come out, were probably very shocking at first. After a while, you might feel that they're wrong, but you're not shocked anymore. And that's the dangerous part, when we're not shocked anymore, because that means that it's becoming normal to our life. Doesn't mean that we agree with it, but it just doesn't mean that we're shocked by it anymore either. And that normalization of those dehumanizing, scapegoating laws is what created that environment where something like this was a little bit more likely to take place. And when that happens, what you're really doing is you are completely knocking someone down to this level, to their safety level. This is the level where you're just thinking about where you're going to sleep that night. And the way that I think about this and explain this is go back to this one. If you can picture a couple, whether that's a married couple or a couple living together, or a couple that has a family, and they have a fight, and it's a not we're going to divorce each other fight, but it's a good fight. And they're fighting, they're not really talking to each other, and then something happens, something really dangerous happens. And all of a sudden, they're not fighting anymore. Like the fight is over. All of a sudden, it's just like everything's in perspective, and they're like, they don't even know what they were fighting about in the first place, because all of a sudden they're just concerned about like making sure that other person is safe, right? I think that that's something we've all either experienced or seen in our lives. And the way that works is, couples that fight, that's actually, there can be unhealthy fighting, but some fights are actually relationship building. It's a form of communicating. It's a form of building boundaries. It's a form of being really clear with your needs, or what was okay or what wasn't okay. It's a form of expressing pain. And what happens is when you put someone's safety at risk, all of a sudden you're literally, that's gone. You don't care anymore what the fight was about, because that level of relationship building has all of a sudden just been taken away from you, and the only thing you're thinking about now is keeping that person safe. It doesn't matter what 5 minutes ago looked like, because 5 minutes ago, this was still happening, but this event, whether it's Kristallnacht or some terrible accident or something, all of a sudden just boom, it's gone. And this is what you're thinking about. You're thinking about making sure that they're still safe. And this is what this night did to a lot of these folks. And so it knocked them down a whole level on our pyramid of what it means to be human. And I want to show you a really frustrating and hard to watch commercial that was put out about an individual. My little camera box is blocking part of this this prompt thing at the very bottom, but it says Trump administration political ad in response to sanctuary cities. So what happened, some of you know this, is immediately after this president was elected and put into office, a lot of cities and even states like California passed laws that said that they're going to protect undocumented immigrants that don't break laws. That angered people in this president's administration, and they put together a political ad about this individual. This individual killed someone, and he was and is undocumented. He was undocumented when he committed this crime, and his example was used as a little bit of some scapegoating that would happen. So I'm going to let you watch this and then think about how that kind of pertains to using the same kind of event of that 17-year-old Jewish kid in the crime that he committed.
That's illegal immigrant Luis Bracamontes, charged with murdering 2 police officers. It's pure evil. President Trump is right. Build the wall. Stop illegal immigration now.
Break out soon, no, kill more.
Democrats who stand in our way will be complicit in every murder committed by illegal immigrants. President Trump will fix our border and keep our families safe.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
So this is the Trump administration official that was behind that policy and behind that commercial. And what I think is kind of funny is this is the guy that did the same thing to the 17-year-old Jewish kid that killed the German diplomat. And I don't know, it just, maybe I'm wrong and I can't see what you're saying or how you're reacting to this because I'm recording it from my house, but I don't know. He just, something about this guy just tells me that is his great grandfather or something. I don't know. So because I just showed you this, one of the things I want to do is like actually teach you facts about sanctuary cities and undocumented people. And this graph that you're looking at right now, it actually shows the crime on one level and crime levels and how many undocumented immigrants a population has. And as you go, hopefully I'm not doing this, hopefully this comes out the right way, and it doesn't reverse it because I'm on a camera right now. But on one side of the graph is less undocumented immigrants. On the other side of the graph is more undocumented immigrants. At the bottom part of this graph is violent crime. So you have less violent crime at the bottom, and then on the higher side, you have more violent crime. And so if you see this, what you actually see is populations that have more undocumented immigrants or actually have less crimes, less violent crimes, which makes perfect sense because when you think about it, if you know someone who is undocumented, they don't even want to run a stop sign because running a stop sign could, being pulled over if when you're undocumented is a very, very different story than, when I'm pulled over. When I'm pulled over, I'm thinking about like, crap, like, is this going to make my insurance rate go up? And that's really the worst that can happen. If someone doesn't have that privilege and that protection, they're scared. So they're not going out and committing crimes. This actually shows, in what's a bummer here is I know my camera is blocking part of this. This shows crimes in Watsonville versus crimes in Santa Cruz. And they're kind of confusing to see at first. You have to kind of really look. Here's Watsonville again. Here's Santa Cruz. And if you look over at the left side, what you actually see is Watsonville scale is very different than the Santa Cruz scale. And so Watsonville starts, the highest it goes is 400 crimes. In Santa Cruz, the highest, they have to make the graph different. It goes all the way up to 600. And so what you see when you actually notice that, there's way, way more crimes in Santa Cruz. Watsonville is actually a much safer place to live. And there are more, as we all know, because this is more local, there's more immigrants that live in Watsonville than Santa Cruz. And we kind of see that evidence happening over and over again. Immigrant communities are safer places to live than non-immigrant communities. This shows people who are incarcerated. The light blue are foreign-born people, so immigrants, and then the dark blue are non-immigrants arrested and in jail. And we see that there are far more non-immigrants in prison than immigrants. So what you have now, you already read the New York Times article on the Nuremberg laws. So now you've got another New York Times article on Night of the Broken Glass, and you've got another article, primary sources. One is on that third one there down at the bottom, one of those documents is a government document. That's that first one. That one's kind of might be the hardest to understand, especially to pull out what's relevant. And then the rest of them are primary sources of people that live to be able to explain what happened. So these are survivors that go back and told the story of what that was like. You're going to use this, of course, to read it and to annotate it. I'll put this up on Classroom, so that way you can not have to have the video playing or hit pause on the video if you still need to use this. As far as these three things go, I totally understand that, like, you're going to have questions on these. You might not know what a word is, and you might look it up and it still doesn't help. And normally you would just raise your hand and call me over, and I would come over and help explain it to you. And you can't do that when you're at home. So what I want you to know is that, especially during the school day, I'm going to try to be as available as I possibly can to instantly help you. You've got a way to contact me on my cell phone, to text me. If you want to contact me through the social media that I've made pretty public, you can do that as well too. But I'm going to try really hard to just be able to, like, help you instantly. We can do a quick, if something's really confusing, we can do a quick Zoom meeting, or even FaceTime. A lot of those things I know, like, normally I wouldn't do that. with you. And I know for you that might be awkward to be like, I don't FaceTime a teacher. But we're not living through normal times right now. And so we have to adjust, and I have to adjust and be flexible too. So during the school day, I'm going to try really hard to be like instantly available to help you on any of this stuff, because I know that all of you are working at different times. You can still try to totally reach out and get help in the evening time too. Most of the time, since I'm not going anywhere, most of the time I'm going to be available to help you during the evening, just as quick as I can help you during the school day. Just know that if it's in the evening time, it might be a minute before I can get back to you. So what you're going to do is you are going to go through, and here come directions. Let me see your eyeballs. You're going to go through and you're going to make sure that all three of these documents are read and annotated and understood. Then you're going to, second step is you're going to go over to Flipgrid, and there is a Flipgrid prompt waiting for you. I want you to treat that Flipgrid prompt as a digital turn and talk. And I want you to just use your notes that you just took from this. I want you to use your documents to talk about and answer that prompt. And then the third thing you're going to do is then use all of this information, your notes, to then compose body paragraph 1. And you can flip back to the prompt for body paragraph 1. That's the one that says explain the process. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Explain the dehumanizing effects of the Nuremberg laws and how this led to a violent turning point for German Jews, basically Night of the Broken Glass. So you're going to type that up, and then you're going to submit that paragraph by Friday. So the two things that you're turning in by Friday are your Flipgrid digital turn and talk. That's a mouthful. And the second thing you're turning in by Friday is body paragraph 1. Any questions, please contact me and let me know. I miss you guys. It's so different doing this from all by myself here. I can't see you out there. And it's hard, and I really miss you. And I hope that I don't have to do too many of these because I want to see you in my classroom again. I hope that you're staying home, and I hope things aren't too crazy for you. Okay, talk soon.